Pam Grier is the first adult titties I ever saw. In the same theater that I saw Dolemite in. It was Roosevelt, Long Island. It was a theater that, for some reason, would let you come in even when you were 12, 13. I saw all these R-rated movies, and I remember, you know, seeing Pam Grier's titties when I was 13, 14, and it changed my life. She pulled her titties out in all the movies. I don't know if it was Foxy Brown or Coffee, Foxy Brown, or Sheba Baby. I don't know which one was first, but I've seen them all. And then years later, I worked with her in the film. A little awkward, a little strange, you know. I almost wanted to tell her, do you know that your titties were the first titties I ever saw? I thought that would be awkward.
You kept it to yourself.
Yeah, I thought that would be awkward for both of us. One or two times she may have looked over and seen me looking. I wonder if he saw my titties. The first joke I ever told, I don't know. I know early on I did voices. I was always a good mimic from early on. I made my mother say, well, who's Eddie? Well, what does Eddie sound like? She used to say that to me. But what does Eddie sound like? I was always a cartoon by Daffy Duck or some. I walked around the house always doing voices to the point to where my mother, you know, was kind of annoyed with it. Well, who is Eddie? What does Eddie sound like? What are you talking about? This is me. The first piece of good advice. Yeah, in the early days, I don't remember getting any good advice. I remember some bad advice I got years ago. I played the comic strip in Fort Lauderdale, and I was maybe 17 years old, and Rodney Dangerfield comes in. He bumps everybody. It's like, Dangerfield is here. You can't, Dangerfield's going up. So, and nobody wanted to follow him because it was Dangerfield, you know, he was gonna, but I was really like full of myself back then. So I was like, Mr. Dangerfield, after the show, will you watch my set? And he was like, yeah, sure, kid. So he goes up and he does, hey, I get no respect. Oh, hey, all that Dangerfield stuff. And the ceiling caves in with laughter, you know. Then I go up and I do my thing. And back then I was really dirty, and I did, you know, edgy racial stuff. And this is 1980, so it's like this kid on stage doing edgy racial stuff. And so afterwards, Dangerfield sees me and he's like, hey, kid, I don't know where you're going to go with that, you know, with the language and the race stuff. And what are you going to do? Well, you need to do this. Now I was crestfallen. Cut to 2-3 years later. I got on Saturday Night Live and had gotten really successful. And I was at Vegas in the bathroom at Caesar's Palace, and I was at the urinal, and I had a leather suit on. It was all of that period. You know, and Rodney Dangerfield comes to the urinal right next to me, and I look over, and he looks at me and says, "Hey, who knew?" Yeah, that's my famous advice story. The first album I remember going and spending money on was probably Richard Pryor's That Nigga's Crazy comedy album. That album is, that's why I'm a comedian. I realized who I was after I got exposed to Richard Pryor. That's when I was, oh, that's who I am, you know. Like that, there is no me without Richard Pryor. I couldn't get up there and do karaoke. I would feel too nervous. Stand-up, I know it's funny. You know, I know that's, you know, but getting up and doing karaoke and singing somebody else's track and I'm singing and everybody's drunk, that's just, I don't know if I could pull that off. I'd be too self-conscious. My first kiss was in front of the Getty station on Nassau Road, and I kissed a girl named Rachel, and she was eating pretzels, and my first kiss was a pretzel kiss. I would walk her to the Getty station, and then she would go the rest of the way. The Getty station was like in between both of us. I was from like 13. I planned it for weeks before it happened, just getting the nerve to do it. I knew I wanted to kiss her. And we kissed in front of the Getty station on Nassau Road. My first kiss was a pretzel mouth kiss.
That's a good memory, though.
Well,
not so good?